There you have it, Sifters. Xbox media briefing for E3 2018. Wow. I think the first thing off the top of my head is that press conference reminded me of what it was like during the Xbox 360 era.
Yeah, when it was just like a rapid-fire assault.
Well, when third parties seemed invigorated to be a part of Microsoft's media briefing, and whether it's something that was going on underneath the hood at Microsoft, or whether it was just Sony's decision to not focus on more than a few games, whatever the reason, it has paid huge dividends for Microsoft at this E3. Let's start going through this stuff. There's a lot to unpack from that. All right, let's see. Halo Infinite, didn't see a ton of that, and actually, we apologize. We had audio sync issues at the beginning. So you guys were actually seeing stuff before Matt and I at first, and then we got everything synced up a little bit later. Halo Infinite looks to have Master Chief in it. I mean, a lot of times with the spin-offs, he wasn't kind of a part of it.
That's a spin-off.
You think that's like Halo 6?
Yeah.
Why?
I think they're just done calling it numbers because it adds some weird expectation, but that's Halo 6.
Oh, interesting. That's not what was leaked beforehand. What was leaked beforehand was you're not going to see Halo 6, you're going to see something called Halo Infinite instead, which still could be wrong.
I mean, Marathon Infinite was Marathon 3.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people that kind of still trying to figure that out, I think, and they probably won't clarify that until next year.
Yeah.
But, like, that's the continuation of Halo. I think that's Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite feels like Halo 6 to me.
What did you think of what they showed? I mean, very, very little.
There's not much to go on there. I see why people are thinking spin-off because it does kind of look like it has an ODST thing going on there, which it's good news for me because I think ODST is the best Halo game. But,
I wouldn't go that far, but it was good.
Well, as someone who doesn't care about the multiplayer, that was definitely the best campaign, I thought. And which is weird because I prefer Master Chief for the most part. But
well, it looks like maybe you're getting the best of both worlds here.
Yeah, it looks like he's involved somehow. Right. Also, I think that it doesn't necessarily mean it's not Halo 6, mainly because they've been dropping the ball with the Master Chief story for 2 games now.
Yeah.
So maybe their solution has been to kind of back away. And they backed away a little bit from that in Halo 5, but the problem was that the other half of the story was chasing Master Chief, which just kind of felt like a tease.
Right.
So a lot of animals in this one. I guess we're on Earth again.
I don't know about that.
Well, that looks like those look like prehistoric rhinos.
It does, absolutely.
And the big circular things remind me of Stargates. So maybe we got a time travel story going on here.
It did not look like a Halo game until...
Yeah, well, Infinite, remember, Marathon, because I'm leaning on the Marathon thing again, but Marathon Infinity involved multiple timelines and multiple dimensions and multiple realities. So if you're calling this Halo Infinite from that pedigree, it says to me that you're going some weird places with it, which might be this shot in the arm that this series needs to get back on track. Then again, maybe you're looking for Chief through time again. Like, Master Chief has become the new Carmen Sandiego at this point.
Let's see. Shadows Die Twice is now the subtitle.
Yeah.
What was the name? What was the name of the game again?
Seiteki or something
Seiteki or something along those lines.
I wrote it down up here.
Sekiro.
Sekiro. Shadows Die Twice.
Shadows Die Twice. I was disappointed in the look of the game. It wasn't very pretty.
The look is kind of how I knew it was the From Software game, not to be mean.
No, it does kind of have, their games still kind of have that weird Unreal Engine kind of glow to it, like on the edges.
And there's also sort of, there's a dirty quality to the textures that I actually like, but it does have a little bit of a last gen to it.
Yeah.
But I liked how it looked. I liked that it looked much more, it wasn't just Souls combat again. It was dynamic. There's motion. There's space. There's verticality.
It looked a lot faster. Yeah.
It seemed like a good extrapolation of what they did in Bloodborne, except they made it looks like they made it a little more vertical.
Yeah.
The area. You can get thrown a long way. That kind of. I liked everything I saw in that trailer as a Souls fan.
Fallout 76. They didn't show much of anything.
No. I mean,
they didn't want to.
Todd said 4 times as big, which I assume means the map is 4 times as big, but we still don't really know what it is. Like,
they're saving that for
their conference. But survival games do tend to have very, very large maps.
Yeah,
because you need to have space for everybody to kind of coexist without killing each other constantly.
No, you're right.
So that would fit.
Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. That was basically another game from Don't Nod.
Yeah,
wow,
Don't
that
Nod
studio
really
is just going bonkers.
Burning the charts up.
Because it is also working on Life is Strange 2. Mm-hmm. It's already announced that it's working on that stuff. So, Crackdown 3, whatever.
Sure still exists.
Coming next year, allegedly, reportedly.
Come out, and so at this point I feel about Crackdown 3 the way I feel about Mission Impossible Fallout. Please come out so I never have to see your trailer again.
Let's see what else. They showed Metro Exodus. I thought the trailer they showed for that was not good.
It was all right.
Started really slow. It got better towards the end. So one of my predictions was that it might be a game of the show candidate. We'll see how that trickles or how that shakes out. Mm-hmm. Kingdom Hearts 3 showed a brand new trailer for that.
Yeah.
Got a new trailer in a Microsoft press conference, which is...
Mm-hmm. With release date, which leaked last night.
Yeah, everyone kind of knew about that already.
Sorry, fantasy team.
Yeah.
It was real close.
That's why we had those alternates this year, Kyle. Let's see what else. They showed stuff for Sea of Thieves, Battlefield 5. Don't really need to talk about that. Forza Horizon 4. The big deal is the game has seasons and weather.
And even more mingle player.
Yeah.
Looks nice. Like I'm always up for a Forza Horizon game.
Yep. I thought the game looked great.
It looked
coming
like this year.
The weather's going to add a lot to it.
Yeah.
Because the coolest thing I thought they showed was how at one point it's a lake and then it freezes over and it becomes a surface that you can race over. I don't know if I've ever seen a racing game do that before.
Yeah, I wonder what determines the season change.
Yeah. If it's like an internal clock in the console,
or if it's if people doing something in the game causes it to happen, like locally, or like I don't know, like because that could be a real bad scene if it goes from winter to spring while you're on that lake.
Well, as far as like environmental interaction goes, it went from 0 to 100 real quick. That franchise. I mean, typically that franchise is just all sunny and maybe you get rain, but nothing like this. So yeah, they went.
3 had good rain, but And I think because there was a snow DLC, there was like the Hot Wheels deal. There were different environments in different. You had to go to a different world basically for the difference. You had to load up the new zone, and they've kind of.
Well, it's like if you set it in Australia,
seamless.
How can you have snow in your game? Like it's just not gonna happen.
Well, I think the DLC went up into the mountains or something. But this looks like they're just making it all one world that sort of dynamically changes, and that's cool.
And graphically, it looks stunning.
Oh yeah,
which, no big surprise there. Let's see what else we got here. We got this is where Microsoft started going into all the studios it just purchased. Just a quick reminder: The Initiative, which is a brand new studio in Santa Monica; Undead Labs, which is a team behind
State of
Decay 2,
which got another update yesterday, 5 gigs.
Another 5 gigs. Playground Games, which makes Forza Horizon, Ninja Theory,
and rumored to be making the Fable game.
Right, Ninja Theory, and Compulsion Games.
Ninja Theory is a great get. And I'm glad Ninja Theory got bought because those guys do great work, and I'm glad that sounds like they have a stable future now.
Well, it sounds like their whole concept of making the AAA indie game paid off.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the game sold pretty well, but ultimately I think that might have convinced Microsoft to buy them.
Right. Well, what they pulled off with the budget they had, and how good that game looks, like that. If I were Microsoft, I'm looking at that, and I'm just like. I want you, not just in my stable, I want you teaching our other developers how you did that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't believe, maybe there was a bidding war for them, but you would think anyone who was smart and looking for an acquisition, that should have been your number one target.
Yeah. Well, if Microsoft wants it, they can buy it. That's probably the lesson there.
So this is good. Microsoft is finally realizing, hey, we need more first-party content. We're going to buy a bunch of studios. But
that stable looks more like the 360 era to me.
Yeah. But why did it take so long to figure this out? Because
that's a good question.
This is great, but man, this isn't going to pay any fruit for like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is just Microsoft is still a giant lumbering behemoth of a corporation, and those things, they don't move fast. frankly, this showing and all that's a little ahead of where I expected them to be. Like I think I said one of my predictions at the beginning of this year was, the Microsoft situation isn't really going to change much.
Yeah.
And in terms of the release schedule, I was right. But in terms of like the actively saying like, hey, we're making progress towards this thing, I would think I was wrong, because clearly they have taken drastic action to try to correct themselves. And it's not going to really probably make a huge dent this generation. I think
No.
the story is told. PlayStation crushed them. Switch is about to pass them in like a fraction of the time. But like, next gen is next gen, and it's not a coincidence that he mentioned that they're working on it.
Yeah.
And Sony has to make
just 6 months after they put out a new
Sony's
piece of
got
hardware.
to make the first move on that, but Microsoft sounds like they're going to be ready to blow them out of the whatever Sony puts out with their PlayStation 5. I think Microsoft's plan is like, we're going to put out something more powerful that runs things better. And
it's consumer friendly,
and the 360 model.
Right.
Basically, it's like it ran
Let's
everything
go
better.
back to what we did before.
Yeah, just do it again.
Funny how that worked out well for them.
Who knew? And the irony is that's also what that was Sony's lesson from the PS3.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the truth is,
if these companies can remember something from generation to generation, we might have something after a while.
It is funny though. I mean, how the roles just completely reverse, and now Microsoft is trying to revert back to its old ways, but. In this case, it is too late. I mean, this generation, what we just saw in that show, probably isn't going to sell a ton of Xboxes, but it's going to keep people who have Xboxes happy.
Yeah.
You know that if you just bought an X, there's going to be plenty of great games to play. Not necessarily exclusives, a few here and there.
But I'm also, they're hitting pretty hard. Spencer was hitting pretty hard the whole runs better on Xbox thing.
Yeah.
And I will say, having an Xbox
totally
One
true.
X, totally true. Like, things markedly run better.
Well, when I come over here, you're playing, unless it's an exclusive, you're playing everything on your X.
Yeah, I've switched almost fully over at this point to multi-platform stuff on the Xbox.
Yeah.
And like sometimes it's as different as like it's 60 frames versus 30 frames. And that's a difference.
That's still significant.
I realize it's that's the casual gamer doesn't really know what that is, but like
you're not going to convince anybody to buy an X based upon, hey, it runs in 4K 60. It's just not going to happen.
You can do the thing like you always talk about where like the core gamer, the gamer that someone who's more casual is asking, what should I buy?
Yeah.
If you can get that guy to say, oh, you should buy the Xbox, you've made some headway.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have.
That hasn't been a conversation that's been had over the last.
No, that has not happened in a long time. And even right now, I don't say that to someone who asks because it's like, I mean, the Xbox One X is great, but it's $500 freaking dollars. They are doing a sale.
It better be great for that price.
And they are doing a sale right now. I guess it's like $450 this week, which is the first time the X has ever been discounted.
Yeah.
And there was a misprint, I think.
That's still
for
too much, in my opinion. But
it is too much.
$350, I would have dropped it immediately. Well, just like that.
$350, I think was a mistake.
Yeah.
But that was up on I think GameStop's site for a while.
No price drop, permanent price drop for X.
No, I didn't expect that. They
or
don't need
for S.
No, they don't need to. It's
it could help.
Pointless. It could.
At least the S. If you drop the price of the S down to like $225, even $250 maybe, you might see a little bit of a bump. Mm-hmm. But they're all about the X now, and for good reason.
Yeah, but then I wouldn't recommend anyone buy an Xbox One S.
Yeah.
Because it's just not powerful enough.
Yeah.
You're going to get worse
HDR,
performance.
and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
If you're in for a penny on that, you're in for a pound. Just get the X.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
The Division 2, we skipped PUBG and Tales of Vesperia because those are old games. The Division 2, how do you feel about what they showed?
I feel like
they showed a good bit of it.
Yeah, they showed a lot. I feel like it's the Division.
Yeah, it has that DNA, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I think honestly Washington, D.C. might be more interesting than New York.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. It's a more varied architecture, more varied locations. It's not just a big grid.
Yeah, I mean, there's iconic locations in D.C. more so than New York.
Yeah.
New York was just like a row home after row home after row home. That's like all there was. And it showed you, like, you're going to be able to go to, like, the big monuments in D.C. I think that gives the game a little bit more personality, and it gives you a little bit of better, if you're not from New York, a better lay of the land. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I actually think that the location is an upgrade over the first Division.
Yeah, I think, and also just not being in the snow.
Yeah.
And, like, I got real tired of looking at that game.
The game itself looks pretty much the same.
Yeah, I don't know if it's enough to tempt me into playing the Division 2.
Really? You may not even play
Look,
it at
man,
all.
that comes out, what, March?
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll be deep into Anthem at that point.
I mean, there are so many games coming out Q1 next year.
Or finishing Crackdown 3, or finishing Days Gone, or like, I mean, tons of stuff comes out in February.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like I need the Division 2.
Maybe something's going to get delayed. You just know it is.
I don't think Division 2 can slip out of fiscal.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, even if
You're
it gets
right,
delayed,
we might lose some of the other stuff.
Even if it gets delayed 3 weeks or whatever, that would be a help, I think. Game Pass now having third parties putting their stuff on Game Pass on day and date at launch.
Game Pass is a value. Like, I have to say, like, I don't have it.
Yeah.
But I'm really gonna have to think about it because.
Well, you know, the initial rumors of EA's take on Game Pass is like $15 a month, like $90 a year, or something like that.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, Game Pass is $10 a month.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're not gonna see EA games on Game Pass.
Right.
Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah.
But
Which,
oh well.
I mean, a lot of people, sports gamers will care, but we won't. Shadow of the Tomb Raider showed a nice beefy trailer of that. In all honesty, the best trailer for that game that I've seen yet. All the media they've put out for that game so far has just been kind of humdrum, but that really showed off kind of the breadth of the game, showed the plot a little bit. Yeah. Session, skating game.
It's all you.
It's no Skate 4.
I don't know who's making. I'm curious
I
who that
honestly
is.
don't even like the Skate franchise all that much. And I've skated for over a decade.
Well, I'm curious who's making that. Like what the pedigree is.
They never announced a developer at all.
Is it the Creation? They showed the developer
like
name.
a new studio.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it before. So I'm wondering is it like ex-skate developers who like went and formed their own company, or like that seems like a risk. But
maybe they took developers from like every company that ever made skateboarding games. So you have like Neversoft, like Beanox.
You mean like the Voltron of skateboarding
right,
developers.
exactly.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, maybe it ends up being good. Black Desert Online is coming to Xbox One. We kind of knew that already. Devil May Cry 5. The tone of the old games.
I mean, that basically got massively leaked like sometime like near the end of last summer.
Yeah, we've known about it. I mean, we've had a game page for Devil May Cry 5 on Sifted for well over a year. So
looks like Devil May Cry.
But I mean, it looks like the Devil May Cry that the fans want. It doesn't look like DMC.
No.
Although it does a little bit maybe still.
It's got a more grounded visual look in terms of the environments, I think. But like, I don't know, it looked fun. I mean, I like DMC.
I did too.
It
seemed like it was set in like modern day though.
Yeah.
The new one.
Well, they always have been.
Yeah, I guess they have.
Yeah, I mean, there's always been kind of a modern day sort of urban noir to them. He ends up in some kind of old world looking locations, but like, you know, his office in the first game is clearly in like some city somewhere.
They needed to hire Sam to handle this because they cut out before they showed Dante.
Yeah.
That's really all everybody wanted to see. Is Dante the lead character? Is he in the game?
No, it clearly.
And they show him like riding up on the motorcycle, but then it cuts out before you can see
clearly
it.
You play Nero, and Dante's is like in 4. You played Nero up to the certain point. You switched to Dante and played your way back through the whole game in reverse.
Yeah, I hope they don't do that again.
No, I don't think they will.
But I thought the game looked good. I thought it had like kind of the funny, punny tone of the older games instead of the
had the kind
of
over-the-top crazy stuff mixed in with the combat. Yeah.
Yep. Let's see what else. Then there was a bunch of indie stuff: Cuphead DLC, Tunic, Jump Force.
I'm not going to play Jump Force, but Jump Force is a pretty cool thing. I mean, I don't care about any anime because I was 22 when all that stuff started to air in America, but you know, I see, you know, the don't underestimate the shonen fans. Those people are hungry for content.
Yeah, I just don't think there are all that many of them.
Yeah, there's enough to matter.
To me, that game was kind of a throwaway.
Yeah, but you're not interested in that stuff. To someone who's interested in Naruto and all those crossover stuff, like they've done crossover fighting game stuff with the Jump Superstars on DS, but it's never looked like that. Like that is, I mean, that's basically what that is like Gundam Versus, but with.
I think it'll be huge in Japan. I just think there's a limited audience for it here.
Well, it's not going to sell 10 million here, but it's going to sell a few million. It's going to be.
You think it'll sell that much?
Absolutely.
Wow, I would take a bet on that.
You seriously underestimate the appeal of Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, and all that to the under 30 audience.
Yeah, maybe.
It is there. Trust me.
Dying Light 2. This game really impressed me.
Yeah, I liked the first one a lot.
I played it for probably 14 or 15 hours before I finally kind of. I don't know if I can't even remember if I got tired of playing it or if I had to move on.
I played it for almost 10 hours before I liked it.
The problem was I did not like the controls for the parkour in the game. There was this weird thing where you had to use like the shoulder button to like clamber.
Yeah. I got used to it. It was one of those games where I played it and I kind of bounced off it, and then I went back to it later when it got an update, and something with it clicked, and I played it for like 40 hours. It
was huge. The game
I never
sold
finished
like
it.
crazy.
I never finished the story. I did play some of the DLC where like you got to go out in the buggy and do all the open world stuff over there in the kind of the lake bed area. But like, I ended up really liking that game, and it was like a sneaky liking. It was like so after like playing it for a while. At one point, I was like, I like this. I really like it. Like I got it. It clicked.
I died a bunch of times playing that game. The trailer for it, though, was really heavy on the parkour.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple times I was like, wait, who's developing this? Or who's publishing it? Is this like an EA game now? It looked like, what's EA's parkour franchise?
Mirror's Edge.
Oh, yeah, it looked a couple times, it almost looked like a Mirror's Edge game set in like the zombie apocalypse.
Well, there's clearly a lot more freedom in how you parkour in this one. Like the first one was a little rigid, a little cubic.
That's a good way to describe it. Yeah. So I was impressed with Dying Light. I thought it looked good. Battletoads, they just kind of mentioned that and just tossed it aside, even though that's been rumored for a really long time.
Rumored and desired, I would say.
Just Cause 4, again, a game that was leaked beforehand. We've known about that it was confirmed now for a couple days.
Yeah.
But it was a part of that Walmart leak.
I'm happy about that. I like the Just Cause games.
It'll be interesting to see if they can push it forward, because I feel like they have a lot of the things accomplished with that franchise that other developers struggle with, but have failed to kind of handle like the narrative side of things as well as they should. The gameplay and things like that are great in that franchise, but I just always struggled to find motivation to keep going playing Just Cause.
Yeah, you run out of things to do, and even as much as I like blowing stuff up and do that. There's a point at which I actually was playing a little bit of Just Cause 3 last night because it's on Xbox Live, like their big sale this week for it's like $9 or something for the game plus all the DLC, and the DLC actually makes it a much better game because you get a tank and you get a jetpack and you get a mech and you get to fight a flying fortress, and it goes a little crazier. You're not just going to the same fuel depot over and over again and blowing the same fuel tanks up. That's what happens with Just Cause with me is like I get into it and I play for a long time and I blow a bunch of stuff up and at some point I switch to the map to see what I want to do next, and I pull back on the map and I keep pulling back on the map and keep pulling, and it just creates like this feeling of despair in me where I'm just like, I'm never gonna do all this, because it's like once you've cleared out like one area, it's like taking you like 10 hours and you've done everything you could possibly do in the game, and it's like, okay, do every single one of those things like 100 times again.
No thanks.
I think Volition has a similar problem with the Saints Row games.
No, you're absolutely right.
But I do like kind of the moment-to-moment stuff, the grappling hook and the wingsuit and all that. I mean, the mobility and how like
how you can traverse the environment.
How you eventually hit a point where it's like, why would you ever get in a car?
Well, also watching people who were good at Just Cause play the game.
Yeah.
It looks like a completely different game from when like I play it. Like I got okay with like the tethering, but some people become like masters of it, and I think. Again, it's one of those cases where they're doing well in an area a lot of other games in that genre struggle with. Like, the gameplay in that is better than the gameplay in Grand Theft Auto in a lot of different ways. But GTA just destroys it on pretty much every other front. So it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of pick up the slack on the parts of the game or the franchise that up to this point haven't really been up to scratch. Then the Gears onslaught happened. Gears Pop on mobile. I'm assuming that's probably going to be a Gears Battle Royale game on mobile or something.
Either that or like one of those like kind of Clash of Clans things or something. Like,
it could be
tower defense maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Then there was Gears Tactics, which is like XCOM set in the Gears universe. That looks great.
Seemed like it had a little more real-timey to it. Like you saw the one bit where they were defending the wall, and like all the things were kind of moving and they were blowing stuff up. It's, it felt like maybe it's not totally like XCOM. Maybe it's like a thing where you pick everybody's moves and then it goes.
That could
be. That might be a way to do that.
I'm totally cool with that. I think that IP mixes perfectly with that genre, so I'm cool with that.
So I was wrong about real-time strategy, but I did call some kind of.
Well, you said strategy. 3 Gears games.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
You nailed it. Did you have inside info on that one?
No.
No, just a hunch.
I just figured that since the Coalition seems to be the only existing established in-house developer they had that had their shit together, that wasn't making Forza, they were going to lean on them. And I do know Rod Ferguson personally, and I know that Rod Ferguson can get 3 games out. And I mean, Rod Ferguson just gets jobs done.
Dude, the Coalition is destroying 343.
I mean, remember, he's the one they brought in for BioShock Infinite.
Yeah.
To be like, hey, this has been delayed forever. So, and Rod's
How
like,
do you come
we're
in
going to get this out in a year. Here we go.
He did, though.
Yeah, he did it.
I mean, he ended up cutting half of the game off.
But he got it done.
Still got it out.
And when he's in charge of a project from the beginning, that thing's coming out.
Yeah.
So.
And then Gears 5, not Gears of War 5 people.
Yeah,
it's just
Gears 5.
It's just Gears 5. Looks like a continuation of Gears 4 in the story and everything. Doesn't seem like there's any layover between the 2 games. I thought it looked great. Of course, it's running on X, which is going to make it look great. But that engine was kind of designed from the beginning to get the most out of PC and higher end hardware. It looks like it might be like a buddy cop type thing where she and the one guy kind of go off on their own and do their own thing.
Yeah, it looks like it.
It also looks like a huge departure in some ways from the franchise. There's this crazy like ice skating boats.
Yeah, I like the design of
kiteboarding.
Like the design of that boat is like, well, it's like, is that a military design? It's like one guy's gonna drive the boat and the other person's gonna water ski.
Gonna kiteboard. It's basically kiteboarding on ice.
It's like, okay, COG just likes to do stuff awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine.
That series could use some new twists, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Let's be honest.
I think 4's problem for me was it just felt very by the numbers and wrote, despite how pretty it was.
Hey, this is our first Gears game. Let's make sure we don't screw it up.
And this one, at least they're going a little off the rails. They're
literally
messing with the lore a little bit. Like, it looks like she's getting some psychic messages from the Locust somehow. Maybe something's going to tempt her to become the new Locust Queen. Something like that. So I think there's a lot of possibility there. And
meanwhile, the internet's going insane because it appears that there's a female main protagonist.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm glad I haven't seen any of that yet, but I'm sure it's going on.
Oh, I'm sure, absolutely. And look, anyone can wear the power armor. People,
right. Yeah.
Clearly. And I'm also wondering, it would be funny to me if that is the plot and she becomes the Locust Queen at the end, like a cliffhanger, and it's like, so Gears even did the Cortana goes rampant thing faster and better than Halo did. That would be amazing to me if they tell that what is essentially that story, but again, because that's the thread of Halo. In Halo has been Cortana goes rampant and kind of restarts the progenitors or the covenant, whatever she does to become an evil thing.
Yeah.
And what if that happened? It's like, we did in 1 game, and the next one's coming out in 2 years.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah.
Did you render that motocross helmet yet, guys? Yeah? You good? All right. Thumbs up.
And then to finish it all off, Cyberpunk 2077. Yep. Is this what you thought it was going to be all along?
You mean what it looked like?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I mean, that game is based on an old pen and paper RPG.
Right.
Cyberpunk 2020.
But this is the first video game representation of it.
No, it's not.
Really?
Well, it's the first one in 20 years or something. Yeah. The previous one was I think a PC gold box
text adventure or something.
No, you remember those old gold box D&D games, those tactics?
Yeah, I do.
I think it was something like that.
Ah, okay.
It was not anything anybody remembers. And I don't even know if it was officially licensed, but it was sort of we based it on the thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the license for the actual license of Cyberpunk was a hard one to nail down for a while.
Well, it's probably just out in the public domain now, right?
No.
No?
It's actually owned by one specific guy, and they had to license it from him. And they did change the year because the original one is Cyberpunk 2020.
Well, we're
obviously
there.
We have this corporate dystopia, but we don't have the bionic limbs yet, so we got to move it forward. So now it's 2077. Which is the year that in Fallout that the nuclear war happens.
Oh, right, yeah.
Crossover.
Yeah,
There
yeah. We have 76 and then 77.
Yeah. Well,
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's true. Fallout 76.
How crazy would it be if 76 like somehow transitioned into Cyberpunk? Two different settings. One is post-apocalyptic. The other one's like, that never happened.
Yeah.
We're thriving.
But it's kind of an apocalypse.
Yeah.
It's a dystopia.
Yeah, dystopia for sure. I was shocked at how it looked. Shocked. It was way brighter, more day glow, more stylized than I ever imagined. Well, I really thought it was going to be almost like the latest Blade Runner film.
Yeah, like, well, I'm sure it will be when night falls.
Washed out, bleak, like.
Well, when it gets dark, I'm sure you'll get the rain and the gothic, the neo noir kind of thing to it.
Well, it was funny because when we first started watching it, you thought it was Watch Dogs 3.
Yeah, because of the glitchy text
right.
stuff. Yeah.
But then ultimately the game actually ended up looking a good bit like Watch Dogs 2 as far as the color palette and all that.
That's a daytime game.
Yeah.
Or at least that trailer was a daytime
thing. I was very surprised by Cyberpunk 27. That is not what I had built in my mind for that game to look like at all. And a lot of that was going on the teaser trailer that they had released, and we've watched over and over and over and over again. I never expected it to look like that, but I love it. I think it looks awesome.
I mean, it looks as good as I would expect a CD Projekt Red game to look now.
In 2018, yeah.
And I mean, like part of the Cyberpunk thing is like, you know, and you don't really associate with that because like visually, I think most people think Blade Runner or that kind of, or Ghost in the Shell. But like part of kind of the old Cyberpunk stuff was that it is a scuzzy, dirty, world, black markets and underhanded stuff and wetware and hackers and stuff. But like the world that the normal people live in is like all bright and shiny and kind of like you'd never know that you live in a horrible corporate oppressive place because
they're on the right side of it.
Well, because the whole point is that you're not supposed to see it.
Right.
Like and the Cyberpunk part, the punk part is rebelling against the system and kind of undermining it and seeing the gross underbelly of what these corporations are doing to the world.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure it won't always be that bright and shiny in the game, but it's just like there's some bright, beautiful moments in Witcher 3, and then it can just be like a frickin' rainstorm, and you're in the muddy streets of Novigrad, and people are sobbing in the streets because they're so miserable. Yeah. And it's like you'll see that from the top to the bottom, it'll be great.
I mean, look, it was only a trailer, but it delivered and then some for me.
And it looks like you're driving cars around this crazy metropolis and all that. I mean, that's going to be amazing.
Game looks hot. I
gotta go.
I mean, my expectations were very high, based upon what that studio has done, the promises that it had made about this, and it hit my expectations and then some. So very, very impressed with Cyberpunk. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to play it here this week. And in fact, based upon what we've seen so far, that will be, if it's on the show floor, the first game that I run to whenever I get in there on Tuesday.
I would be a little surprised if it's on the show floor.
I would be too, actually.
CD Projekt tends to keep their stuff indoors.
Yep. So that was pretty much the conference. We've run through everything on a granular level. What were your overall impressions, though, Matt?
My overall impressions were it's good stuff. I think Microsoft is on the right track. It's disappointing that so much stuff is 2019.
Yeah.
There isn't actually a whole lot to look forward to this year.
No.
I think that's going to be one major difference between the Sony conference and this one. Is Sony may be focusing on fewer games, but Sony stuff is this year, or some of it will be.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be surprised. Maybe who knows? Maybe Last of Us 2 is further ahead than we think. But that's the one disappointment for me is like so much of it is next year and so much of it is multi-platform.
Yeah.
So in the end, it doesn't really. Look, I'm gonna.
It doesn't move the needle much.
I'm gonna buy most of those on Xbox because I have the X and it's gonna play better, or I'm gonna buy them on PC. But you get the same. Buy on one, get them both, right? Yeah. But the trick to it is like, would I, if I didn't have the X, would I be like, oh, I got to get an X to play? No, I just play it on my PlayStation. I don't. It would, like you say, it wouldn't move the needle for me in terms of buying a new console if I already had a Pro.
Yeah.
And if I didn't desperately want to play 4K movies, which I did, that was the main motivation for me to get the X.
The fringe benefits have turned out to be pretty great, though.
Yeah, it turned out to be a pretty good move. Although again, like, you got to make sure that you really care about all that stuff, and that little performance bump is enough to justify that kind of cost to you.
Yeah. What letter grade would you give Microsoft?
I think I'd give it a B.
Yeah.
It would be, if more of it was exclusive, and this year it would be higher. But I think it was a good showing. It's certainly better than they've done in a few years.
I'm actually going to give Microsoft a B+. Microsoft is finally addressing problems that have been an issue for the last couple years, in all honesty. And it should have done this a long time ago. But I don't want to punish Microsoft this year for what it didn't do last year or the year before. The fact of the matter is, it's figured it out. It's like, we have a dearth of first-party exclusive games. We need more. And at least now it's addressing it. I thought it presented everything in as a digestible way as possible. I thought it did a good job of taking advantage of the fact that Sony kind of left a lot of meat on the table for Microsoft. With the situation Microsoft was in and the assets that it had available to it to put together an E3 press conference, I think it did a great job. Again, it is trying to play catch up for past mistakes, and you're right. A lot of the games are coming to other consoles or other platforms. A lot of them are a long ways away, and in some cases, some of them may have never even be released. But I think with what Microsoft had to work with, I think it did an excellent job. So to me, at least a B+. I'm actually like borderline on like A- for Microsoft this year. It's a shame that it's taken so long for Microsoft to kind of see the light. If it had done this 2 years ago, we'd be having a completely different discussion right now about what was going on in the market. So
does Phil Spencer keep his job in Chainland?
I don't know. No, I mean, what happened today really didn't change my impression of the job that he's done. Like, I don't really agree with a couple of the purchases he made for studios. A few of them are great. Playground, obviously, is great. I mean, Ninja Theory, great. But, like, Undead Labs, they took them, like, 5 years to make this last game, and it was a piece of junk when it launched.
One day, Undead Labs is going to make an amazing game. Like, we'll see what they can do.
But now it's Microsoft's job to fund it until it finally does it.
Yeah, but it was already that.
Yeah.
That's what State of Decay 2 was.
I
mean, those guys worked with them. They're internal. They know what happened. They must see something in there worth pursuing. I see something worth pursuing when I play State of Decay 2 and it works, which is not most of the time.
I mean, look, I feel like we gave them that excuse with the first State of Decay. We're like, hey, they've got something here. Now if they can just clean it up, and then they had another 4 or 5 years and they couldn't do it.
Well, also they had those 4 and 5 years in that dark period where Microsoft was just not working well with their second-party studios. And now that they've got this sort of community they've built with all these other developers, and if they can keep working together, sharing some information and ideas, and maybe they can elevate Undead Labs moving forward. I think that might be the idea. Because look, if they can get Undead Labs to make the game they keep making with the polish level of something like what Ninja Theory made with Hellblade,
or
that game's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it could be.
It's there. They have the potential. It's there. I can see why they did that.
They need a new engine, and I'm sure now they'll.
Well, they had Unreal.
Yeah.
They had Unreal 4 in this one. It's just what happened. I don't know.
Well, I think there are proprietary engines in-house now at Microsoft that they can use, and they give them the Gears engine or whatever. It's like, just get it to competency.
Gears not Unreal anymore?
I don't know. That's a good question. But if that's an Unreal game, and State of Decay 2 is an Unreal game, whatever you're doing over here, just get rid of it and just start working with the APIs and everything you have, or the teams that are working on Gears or Halo are working on. So get some questions in right now. We're about to wrap it up, so if you want to ask some questions of us about the Microsoft press conference, we'll be more than happy to. But yeah, in some ways it's too little too late for Xbox One.
Yeah.
But Microsoft, it's encouraging to see Microsoft kind of laying the groundwork for the next generation. And you brought it up. He mentions the next console there at the end. Never expected that after just releasing the X like 6 months ago or 7 months ago.
I mean, we know that
we all know
the hardware architects are always working on the next.
I mean,
wave
he
of
could have
hardware.
mentioned it last year and the year before, and Nintendo could always mention it. But the fact that he did mention it, I think he also sees the longer play. The bigger goal here is to get Xbox back to where it was and have a healthy stable of first-party studios that aren't just creating the same free franchises over and over.
Well, I feel like especially when you look at what the companies they bought.
And granted, we just saw those same three franchises again.
Oh yeah, but at least we saw some other stuff around them.
It's true, yeah.
But I think you look at the developers they just bought. Like, I feel like they're positioning themselves to have a really good launch.
Yeah.
For the next console,
and if I'm sure those games will also appear on the X.
Mm-hmm.
The
scalability will be a thing.
Yeah,
especially, Microsoft. I think you have no doubt they will keep the library carrying forward because that's really the one place they've constantly had success on the Xbox.
No platform holder cares about it more than Microsoft. It's obvious. Nintendo will just make you pay for it every time to buy the same game. Sony with the PlayStation 3 cared.
Yeah.
I mean, it really cared. The PlayStation 3 was like a backwards compatible powerhouse. But then they started chopping it out, and then the PlayStation 4, now they're like, oh, we'll just stream that stuff.
Well, the architecture is so different on the 4. It's like, but they've done a pretty good job of bringing forward the important stuff as remasters, and I wish they'd focus a little more on their PlayStation Classic stuff with getting PlayStation 2 games. I love playing Dark Cloud 2 again and all that stuff. I would love to see them, really double down on getting that old library kind of brought forward, especially now that you've created this barrier for backwards compatibility, and our PlayStation 3s aren't going to last forever.
Yeah.
So, but Microsoft is really tearing it up with it. I mean, bringing back fully, I never thought I'd play Crimson Skies again on a modern HD system, and it looks great on what they did.
Yeah, you can show the work that they put into it at the beginning. All right, let's get to some questions here. This is actually a question I was going to ask you. Were you surprised that they did not show Fable 4? That's from Bachby.
No, I'm not particularly surprised by that.
I thought they would at least give you a logo.
I hoped they would, but I didn't really think they would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd have been nice if when they announced the purchase of Playground, they would have maybe at least just flashed up. And they're working on a brand new Fable.
Yeah, or even just like a weird little side thing, but like you're working on, obviously Forza Horizon 2 and other more fantastical thing, like fantasy, just throw me a bone, throw me an idea that Fable isn't dead.
Mitchell is Alive actually asked, what is Playground working on? That's what is rumored to be working on, is Fable. Let's see. Super Cordon Bleu, I missed the part where you talked about From Software's new game. What do you think? A better Neo? I don't think it's anything like Neo.
From?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
we're just gonna keep calling it Shadows Die Twice.
It's gonna have some. I mean, it's obviously a little bit of an answer to Neo. It's the medieval samurai game, but I think Neo is clearly a more rigid copying of the Souls idea, whereas Shadows Die Twice is opening the combat up a little more, it looks like.
I mean, Shadows Die Twice looks like Tenchu. It's got the whole rooftop stuff that you used to do in Tenchu.
Yeah, well, except it's not a stealth game, obviously.
Wasn't there a part where it showed him sneaking up on somebody?
You could, but I mean, Tenchu, you didn't have fights with giant ogres thing. I mean, if you could, but you weren't supposed to.
I mean, I get why they didn't call it Tenchu, but it looked like, hey, maybe it started as a Tenchu game, and they're like, well, that's not really who we are anymore.
Well, there's enough Tenchu DNA in there to keep me happy.
Yeah.
As a fan of Tenchu, who really only liked the first one.
Yeah, I think most people are like that, though.
I don't think they've ever matched the first Tenchu again.
Yeah.
That's cool, but definitely, the combat in Tenchu was clunky, and it was almost there as a discouragement to get into combat.
Yeah.
And this does not look. I mean, this is.
Yeah.
This is an evolution of what they've made for the Souls games, and it's cool. I mean, I don't really want to play another Souls alike, in terms of just that, because Bloodborne is different, but it feels very much like what came before it. This looks like it's really broadening out in a way that they haven't in several games.
My big complaint, I just don't think the visuals look good at all.
I just don't care what the visuals look like. I'm there to play it, and if I want to see something that looks really pretty and plays by rote, Gears 5 is coming.
Here's one from Tomb Raiders. What did you think of that amazing Fallout 76 trailer, and does it make you more excited to see more?
I don't know if I'd say more excited to see more, but I do want to see more.
I just want to see anything.
I want to know what it is.
I mean, they just showed some. That was Bethesda placating Microsoft. That's all that was.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we're blowing it out at our press conference, and Microsoft's like, come on, throw a bro a bone here. And
I
they're
mean,
like,
Todd even introed it with like, we have a long history back to Morrowind with
Right.
Xbox. And
Yeah.
it's like, all right. I mean, it was the game press conference equivalent of that scene in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back where Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are like, and sometimes you do it because your friend says you owe him.
yeah.
And look right, they can't, it's like, it was like, yeah.
Here's one from Casey Alpha. Are you surprised that Microsoft didn't acquire Bluehole? Matt actually commented on that during the live stream, like, notice they didn't buy Bluehole. And then I said that, they're a one-trick pony right now.
Yeah. Also, there's, they probably end up in competition with like Tencent.
Yep.
And some companies that have a lot of money to throw around.
It's not worth it right now.
Yeah, at this point, it's like,
let that cool off, and then maybe you buy
It's
them.
not just a one-trick pony. It's a pony whose trick may be ending soon.
Yeah.
Like judging by how Fortnite is eating its lunch. So we'll see. Also, like they still haven't gotten PUBG to work very well on Xbox. So, yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable buying them yet if I were Microsoft either.
Here's a good one from Major Skittles. So are you guys more or less hyped for Sony's conference after watching Microsoft?
I'm not really all that hyped for Sony's conference to begin with. Like, it seems like we're seeing a bunch of stuff we've already seen. The only game they're showing that really has my attention right now is Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah. I think that's going to be blown out big time. I think that will probably start the show.
I was not a big fan of The Last of Us. Like, I acknowledge that the storytelling is better than your average game, and it's very, very pretty, just like everything Naughty Dog makes. The attention to detail is insane. But, like, I thought it was gameplay-wise pretty mediocre, and so I'm not, like, super excited for Last of Us 2. I am interested to see it. And what are the others?
The other games that they're showing?
Yeah, what are the other two?
Oh, there's Death Stranding, which you're...
I'm a giant skeptic of anything Kojima makes.
Yeah.
I just want to see what it is. Like what game is it? What do you do? I'm going No Man's Sky on this one. What do you do?
I would say I am less excited for Sony's press conference because all the third party... And look, we have been told that Sony's only going to show 4 games. I don't believe that at all. Like, all along, I thought Sony would show it more than that. It would just... The bulk of it would be on those 4 games. But now that Microsoft has shown all this stuff, you just kind of wonder what really is left for Sony other than those 4 games. So I'd say I'm less excited for Sony after this. Let's see. Hippie 2000, do you think Microsoft is planning for the next generation and just cruising this one out? Do you think they have some aces up their sleeve further down the line? Yes, I think you absolutely nailed it. I think that's exactly what's happening. I think Microsoft realizes this generation is a lost cause. Not a complete lost cause. I mean, Microsoft is still making money off Xbox, and there's still like 40 million Xboxes out there. It hasn't been a complete and total failure.
No, there is a kind of an unfortunate, like, I guess a competitive mentality in gaming fandom where, like, if you're not...
Only one team wins.
If you're not winning, you're losing.
Yeah,
and it's
not,
like...
Yeah.
No one minds selling 40 million of anything.
Yeah. I mean, Xbox has done just fine, but
in comparison to
we start talking about egos and history.
You talk about comparison to last generation and how the shareholders feel.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're in kind of why isn't shareholders expect everything to just keep going up forever, which is unrealistic, but that's how it is. So you got to explain how come you did this last generation and now you're like half that.
Yeah.
So that is a legitimate problem, but like if you're not a shareholder, you shouldn't really care that much.
But I do agree. I think Microsoft is at this point just kind of writing this generation off and looking towards next gen. I don't expect any of the games from these new studios that it just acquired to be Xbox One games. They may be dual games where it's like Xbox 2 and Xbox One X, but I don't think any of these games are going to come from the studio or for this generation. They're for next. So, and I wouldn't even say that they're like planning ahead. I would say that they're just trying to fix screw-ups, in all honesty, at this point.
Yeah, they're trying to get back on track.
Yeah. They've made so many mistakes, and now they're just trying to fix them, really. Let's see. We'll take one more. Here's a observation. S1 or S-Slagather, I think. Doesn't it just drive you crazy that they keep cutting to the wide shot during trailers and gameplay? Yes, absolutely. Yep. We were talking about Dante, about how they cut out of that trailer before they actually showed Dante. That's a huge, huge mistake.
Usually that's Sony's thing. Is showing the crowd.
Yeah.
I get why you pull out and show the crowd during the Forza Horizon thing because you want to show that you actually dumped leaves on the audience, but otherwise, just stay on a full screen.
Actually, somebody just brought up a really interesting point. Original Dr. Mono. Do you think from Software Game we just saw at last year's Sony press conference is the same one as we saw today?
Yes.
I'm assuming no, because it said world premiere.
Well, that wasn't Sony's conference. That was Keighley's thing.
Yeah.
And yes, it's the same because his arm is what that close-up was. And also it said Shadows Die Twice
Oh, you're
on
right.
the teaser.
Yeah, there you
so
go.
yeah, that's what it was.
Yep, same game, undoubtedly. All right, so that's it. That's a wrap on Microsoft's E3 2018 press conference. I enjoyed the crap out of it. I think back to the last couple years, there's a couple times during Microsoft's press conference the last couple years, I had trouble staying awake.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
seriously, I would start to doze off at some points. This one, it was just wall-to-wall games. A huge, huge improvement over the last couple years. A bit of a smokescreen, I think. I think it makes the future of Xbox, or at least the immediate future of Xbox, look a little rosier than it really is. But I think a lot of the stuff we saw today will pay huge dividends 3-4 years down the road for the Xbox brand in general.
I wonder if, in terms of like you're talking about how there's so many third-party things here. I wonder if part of that is just because the third parties are so clearly aware that their games are going to run and look better on the X.
Sure. Oh, I'm sure that
would definitely tempt me. As
that
a
was the
third party.
selling point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And Microsoft's like, yep, put it on the X. You can say in your trailers it's in-game gameplay. It's going to look way better. And if you just didn't have that opportunity at the other press conferences, plus, look, Square Enix is having its own press conference. So you're like, why would you put Just Cause in? Well, that's because way more people are going to watch the Xbox press conference than are going to watch the Square Enix one. That's just the truth. So, I think it was a perfect storm for Microsoft this year where Sony kind of just said, hey, we're going to do our own thing and left the third parties out twisting in the wind. And Microsoft was more than happy to snatch them up because I think sometimes people do forget that a lot of the games that get a lot of press on PlayStation 4 are also available on Xbox One. Like, a lot of people are just like, oh, it's a PlayStation. No, it's not really. Like, it's on everything. And because Sony has been so successful, it's kind of turned the narrative into everything is for our console when nothing could be further from the truth, and that was a great reminder.
Well, there's like kind of a dueling, it's kind of a jousting match that goes back and forth between like getting the casual audience to think of playing games as either playing PlayStation or playing Xbox.
No, you're right.
Because it's like when we were kids and our parents would say
Nintendo.
you're playing Nintendo.
Yeah.
Whether we were playing on the Genesis or what, it didn't matter. You were playing Nintendo.
It's just like rollerblades.
Yeah.
Like people call them
That's how you-
rollerblades instead of
right.
inline skates.
That's how you win kind of that mind share war.
No, you're right.
And for a while there, it was you saw TV shows and stuff saying playing Xbox,
Yeah.
playing Xbox, and now I'm seeing
Now it's
playing
back to PlayStation again. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So it's kind of this war for like who is gaming.
Right. No, you're right.
You know?
Absolutely.
And hey, at a certain point, you can start seeing people say playing Switch.
It's
in
true.
this show. Like watch the the police procedural shows. If they ever do a video game episode and see what
What do they call
terminology,
it?
which brand they use for that.
They're
That's how
right.
you know who's winning in the
That's a
in the
good
normal
indicator.
people world.
Yep, absolutely. So that's it. We're a wrap here at Microsoft. We'll be back here in a few hours. Our next live stream, and it will be up on time this time. We have everything figured out here now. It was a mad dash.
Don't jinx that.
We're not going to touch anything.
We're going to come back and everything's going to have gone to sleep and gone wrong. And we know how this works. But what was the idea? 6:15 Pacific
for the next
when
one?
we come back?
Yeah, I mean, what time is the 6:30 is Bethesda?
Yeah.
So we'll be back 6:15 to do the pre-show for Bethesda, and then we'll hang out with you guys all for the Bethesda press conference, and then do analysis afterwards and take your questions as well. So thanks for tuning in for Microsoft. I think it was a great press conference, certainly one of the best for Microsoft in a long
too.
time.
It was a long press
It was
conference.
really long. So have a great afternoon, and we'll see you back here around 6 p.m. Pacific. Adios.